McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Show. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on X at John McGlynn 75. Last week of the regular season. What do you have to do to get into playoffs? Where's your team at? Contender, pretender, bottom feeder? Well, let's get to the show. We're going to run through some commissioner questions, week 13 injuries, week 14 waiver wire targets, team by team quick hits, and we'll review some trades that went down in the Mighty McGlynn home leagues. So I went to Anchor Bar this week in Oswego, Illinois, and it was not as good as the one in New York. I don't know if it was nostalgia, just because we were on vacation. The food just tastes better being away from home, but it just wasn't the same as the one in New York. We came down from Niagara Falls, went to Anchor Bar, and had some beer and wings. And I just, like I said, I think everything just tastes better when you're on vacation. So I don't know. We'll have to give it a chance again. Maybe bad cook this day or something. Watch football Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was a beautiful week. The problem was that I worked 12-hour days and stayed up late to watch each game all 4 of these days. So I got about 15 hours of total sleep the whole weekend. So worked 16 hours yesterday. I'm off today, so let's talk some football. JT, what is new?
Oh, just trying to decide if I'm going to go to this Missouri Ohio State bowl game. So what happened? Still week they were going to lose that game, and then I turned around and bet on the Steelers anyway like an idiot, and cost me a bunch of parlays. So still trying to figure that one out. Still upset about that, and still mad about the Colts losing to the Browns because of the refs, or they'd be tied for first place right now. So that's been my week of just being mad about sports. Pretty much trying to figure it out.
I got a friend of mine. Well, I lives out here. His son's wrestled with my kids. I played head-to-head versus him in high school. His name is Eric Johnson. He went to St. Rita, and he went to Pittsburgh. His son plays defensive line for the Colts right now, and his son's actually playing for Missouri in the game against Ohio State. So I might go to that game to hang out with him. So if you're going there, I might be.
Now I gotta go. I was gonna look at tickets tonight and figure out flights and all that. So now I have to go if you're gonna
go. Yeah, I mean that would be cool. That would be cool. That would be a cool game to see. I think Ohio State's gonna roll them, unfortunately, but it'd be cool just to see Eric and then see all his kids at the game too. So that's good dude. But Jorge, what's going on, man? What's going on with you?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on the show again. It's always a pleasure to talk shop with you. I do want to say two things before we get started. One, that has to be probably the sickest intro music to a show I have ever heard. So kudos to you for that. Two, I am blown away by this draft board you have behind your head right now. That looks like super awesome. I kind of want to know a little bit more about that, to be honest with you.
Herms NFL. I think everybody knows Herms on the Twitter machine or X machine, whatever you want to call it. He wrote the intro music for me, and then I had I'm gonna have to look him up. Somebody did all the video stuff for me. I'm gonna mention these guys from now on the intro when you say I should be giving credit every week anyway. But DraftKits.com made this board for me. It's actually rolled up right behind me. If I was prepared, I would take it out, but it's a vinyl board at DraftKits.com. If you look it up, he's on Twitter. Yeah, it's a reusable board. It's got Dan Marino, Josh Allen, my commissioner evaluation symbol, all of my Mighty McGlynn Dynasty home leagues. I started off with that board. 12 teams, 30 mans. It's got spots for all your names on the bottom. There are all kind of notes. It's got pretty much any person you could think of. Redraft, Dynasty, IDP, you name it. The guy's got stickers for everybody you could think of that's in the NFL. So I think he's moving on to Devy and things like that too later. So you could have other drafts also. So, I mean, DraftKits.com, thanks for noticing the board in the background. And thanks, DraftKits.com, for making these boards awesome. I always had the ones you buy for $18 or $25 on Amazon. They get shipped to your house a couple days with all the stickers. to have a customizable board with my two favorite players all time in the NFL, Dan Marino and Dan Marino with legs in the form of Josh Allen, both on the same board, is what makes me. I mean, it's looking at that board makes me happy. So
I can see why, man. It looks fantastic. Sounds fantastic.
yeah. So tell me about yourself. Where people on Twitter could find you, all that kind of stuff. What makes people want to follow you on in your fantasy football journey?
Sure. So I started a website called fantasyandframes.com back in 2017, and I've been slowly building the brand up to where we cover redraft, dynasty, IDP, DFS, best ball. We have over 20 people contributing to the site and to all of our content on YouTube and the various social media channels, which you can follow at Fantasy and Frames. You can find me personally on X at Jorge B. Edwards. But you know what? I'd rather you just follow all of us at Fantasy and Frames at Fantasy and Frames. In terms of what I do, I've always been covering redraft and IDP fantasy football, then got into Dynasty, been covering that. Been even helping out with some DFS lately. So it's a wide range of content I like to cover. I always like to expand my boundaries and help people, in terms of providing quality content, well-researched content, and just have fun talking about something in a game that we all have a passion for.
What's your favorite thing to do in fantasy football? Ranking, podcasting, social media, stuff like this. You put out TikToks, and I do those. You guys make them for me. I do the flex zooms for Fantasy and Frames, and it's fun. I'll see all the different shows, all the different things. What's your favorite thing that on your site?
So I'll always love going on shows like this and talking shop. I did mostly writing, so there's still the part of me that still enjoys writing. But you mentioned it, a lot of the behind the scene things, like the graphics and the video editing, and a lot of those things that help repackage our content and put it out there so that people, however they want to consume our content, whether it's reading an article, looking at the information through pictures, listening to it and watching it through video, or just listening to it through podcasts, however people want to consume content, as we try to make that content for them. And that's really been a majority of my focus this year, more so than other years, just creating and finding ways to repackage the content and to, give more avenues for the viewers and the people who support us, ways to, consume the content.
What's your favorite thing to do now in fans? I mean, tell me about a day away from the life, away from your desk, from fantasy content creation, like your family, pets, music. What's your favorite hobby outside of fantasy football, that kind of stuff?
Wow. Yeah. So first of all, my wife, Melissa, and we have a 2-year-old golden doodle puppy. So that takes up, a majority of my time outside of the fantasy football sphere. It's kind of interesting, with all the work we do at Fantasy and Frames. When I do get some free time and I'm not watching football or doing fantasy content, I'm not gonna lie, there's some napping that's involved just to catch up on sleep. Definitely enjoy that, but just spending time with the fam, watching movies. I guess that's kind of a big thing about it. I like watching movies. I'm a bit of a nerd / geek when it comes to that. So all the Marvel movies and all the pro wrestling and all the sports you could try to absorb. I don't know. I'm just a big geek who just happens to love fantasy football and watch cool things. So
I was waiting for the Star Trek to come out. I know you're a Star Trek guy too.
Oh, number one in my heart, Star Trek will always be. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's your favorite food when you're glued to the TV watching Red Zone on Sunday afternoons?
Oh, it's wings, man. And I'm not talking like the boneless wings. I call those chicken nuggets. Give me the bone-in wings, the buffalo sauce, the hot buffalo sauce. I'm a traditionalist in that regard. Give me that and a tall beer, and I'm good to go, man.
Hooters, Buffalo Wild Wings, things like that. What's your favorite place?
So I don't like the breaded wings from Hooters, so I'm going to go with Buffalo Wild Wings in terms of their type of wings. And to be honest with you, while I do like the buffalo sauce and I do like the different sauces they offer, just give me some naked wings fried with I'm a blue cheese person. I'm not a ranch person. I don't know if that's a controversial take here or not. But give me that. Give me some wings. I'm happy.
Mango habanero with blue cheese is my favorite. That's my go-to. The hotter the better. Like when I go anywhere, I get like what's the hottest on your menu? Give me one step below that. That's kind of where I'm at in my my. What's your blue cheese or ranch, JT?
I'm more of a ranch guy, but I have come to appreciate blue cheese over the years. It was something I didn't like at all when I was younger, and as I've gotten older, I've appreciated the nuance of a really good blue cheese.
Yeah, I think you can't get the cheap blue cheese dressing stuff that you get in the bottle from, like, if you go somewhere.
You gotta get the nice stuff. You gotta get the good quality blue cheese. Like get the nice little crumbles in there. You get the real stuff. That's it's a difference maker. I tell people all the time. It's like buying a cheap tequila or nice tequila. They're not even on the same level. It's not even the same thing. You buy that really nice blue cheese, really good. It's totally different than just the generic stuff.
A good black and blue burger with blue cheese crumbles on the side you put on there with tater tots and dipping cheese on the side to eat it with, man. That's my idea. And a blue moon to go with it, man. That's my idea of a perfect good meal right there.
You're making me hungry, John.
Seriously.
Well, I'm always happy. I just had 5 eggs. I had 5 eggs and somebody left a steak. And I eat better at my house than I do at restaurants because all my kids and my family go out to eat and they leave all these awesome things in the refrigerator for me. So I found a steak from Texas Roadhouse and somebody left, cut it into pieces, threw it in the eggs. I crumbed up some other spices, and I put cheese on real nice bread, and I ate those sandwiches like that. It was an excellent breakfast today. So
nice.
Sounds good.
Yes. All right. So I asked you guys a question real fast. I'm going to jump into it. Oh, you know what? Let's get to the commissioner question first. There was a handful of debates from Nate Powell and some other people that I saw about tanking this week. Is tanking not setting a lineup? Is that considered tanking, or is that just an illegal thing? Because I think people have a different idea of what tanking is. For me, tanking is selling off all my good older assets in order to get draft picks to rebuild my team. So I don't plan on scoring a lot of points because it usually takes rookies a couple years to kind of develop, or a year or two anyway. So is tanking to you like leaving your lineup blank? Because I think that's called an illegal lineup, not a tanking move. So, and what Jorge, what do you consider tanking? And do you think it's legal or encouraged, or is it kind of frowned upon?
So I have a couple different views on this. For starters, I always believe that no matter what your team situation is, no matter what point of the season you are, whether you're not in contention or if you're in contention or you're somewhere in the middle, like do your best to fill every roster spot on your team if you can. But here's the thing: for a dynasty, if I am, especially if I'm like in those leagues where you have multiple flex options as opposed to your traditional 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, tight end, so on and so forth. I'm not going to drop a dynasty asset to pick up somebody off of waivers who I really could care less about just so that I could fill a spot. Like if at the end of the day, like I'm thinking about the long-term assets, the long-term value of my team, and I'm not going to sell off parts, especially if it's just one spot on my roster that's going to be empty. Maybe I'll fill in the spot, put somebody who's out or something or whatnot. But I don't know. Again, with Dynasty, it's so much different from redraft, because redraft, there are only so many games in the season you have to pay attention to your roster, versus Dynasty, you have to deal with it year round. And so then it comes to the point where it's like, you mentioned selling off top players for draft picks there. Look, you're playing the long game. If you're not, we have this thing on the Dynasty 365 show with Tyler Heil and Stacey Perez and Chris Burns. And that is, look, if you're not competing for a title in your Dynasty league, then you're in rebuild mode. Regardless, like nobody's goal is to be in their dynasty league. Well, my goal is to be middle of the pack each season, not really in contention, but not really doing horribly. Like, no, your goal is to win a championship each and every year and assemble your team as you should. And if that means taking a step backwards and accumulating picks to sell off assets to get, ahead, next year, and so be it. You got to constantly be making moves to help make your team better, not just for the immediate, but for the long term as well.
Yeah, John, I was going to say, I think Chris Joel Smith was the guy that originally sent it out to us on Twitter, was asking about tanking and all that. I think it's always different. Like Jorge says, it's different when it's a dynasty versus a redraft. I mean, you always have problems with redraft leagues once guys are out of it. Just they kind of forget about their team and quit messing with it, which I hate. I'm signing up for the season. I'm setting my lineup the whole year. I don't care if my team's terrible or not. I'm putting in a lineup and I'm trying to score my most points. I probably, might be in the minority in that, but I do. But that's also why I've changed a lot of my redraft leagues to keeper leagues, because at least then guys have a reason to like trade off assets for guys that they can keep and keeps them somehow involved. But yeah, I think every year, I'm in leagues where we didn't have guys setting lineups this last week. They've been out of it for 2-3 weeks. They have no shot at making the playoffs. And that's always a tough thing as a commission. What do? Do you set your lineup for them? Do you, get in there? Because obviously if you're a guy who needs somebody to knock somebody off, you're upset that they're not setting a lineup. But that's I think as a commission, that's always a tough thing to figure out how you want to handle that or deal with that. I think a lot of people always say, hey, just if the guy's not setting a lineup, kick him out of the league. But I don't think it's as easy as just kick people out of the league every time they're not doing something. So it's tough. But you're hoping in a dynasty, if guys, my biggest thing is as long as you're not just completely, taking people out of your lineup that you'd usually start on purpose. And that's where you go max points for. I had a couple leagues that didn't have any rules against max points for and didn't do it. They just went straight on record. And we had a guy who had a really good team last year that got off to a bad start. And he just started sitting like Jamar Chase, like every week. It started sitting like all his best players because he's like, oh, I can get the 1-1 if I don't play anybody. I'll just he was setting a lineup. He wasn't like putting in, an illegal lineup in, but he was just playing his worst players that he could possibly play. And again, that's where as a commish comes in, you gotta spell that stuff out before the season, because again, some people complained about it, but like there wasn't a rule in place. No one said, hey, you can't do that. So the guy took advantage and he got the 1-1 in the draft. Now his team might miss the playoffs this year, even though he has a loaded lineup. Maybe that's karma. I don't know. But that's kind of, I guess that's the way it works in fantasy football sometimes.
Yeah, there's a handful of, first of all, some people say if you pay your league fees, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want with your team, right? And then it's like, well, what when all of your league mates are getting easy wins or division mates are getting 2 wins a year because they're playing that guy who's just what some people consider tanking by not setting an illegal lineup? Is that an advantage or a perk? Like is this grounds for dismissal after how many times? If you tell the guy, hey man, I don't care how bad your team is, you got to set a lineup, and it's just still three blank spots, or if you. It's how many times you got to say something to somebody before it's like, hey man, this is your last warning. It's been 3 times this season already. It's been 6 times over the last 2 years. Like, when is it time? Like, you made the rules. I guess you can vote and put it in the rule book, and then next year get rid of them. But after how many times can you say like, hey man, listen, this is the story. Either set your lineup or you're out. Kind of, we'll get a competitive owner in here, kind of thing. I just don't know. It's one of those things where it's hard, and I don't want to hear about just paying league fee stuff. That's BS, because. You shouldn't just. There's other people in the league who are really, really trying to get screwed over by somebody who just, doesn't have any kind of, how do you call it? Like kind of like a team feeling for the league itself. So if this isn't your most important league and you don't want to be here and you're not setting lineups and trying to be competitive, then just go. We don't want you in here, kind of thing. That's how I look at it. So, anything else to add to that, you guys? Well,
John, I was going to say, like, you kind of, we've talked about this in the past on the show where you do the X amount of balls, to get the number 1 pick. So you can't automatically tank and get the 1-1. Like, there's still like an option. Like I do in a couple of my leagues where you actually still have to set a lineup and you actually have to win the 1-1 as opposed to lose to get the 1-1. Like anybody who doesn't make the playoffs does a little mini tournament to just to determine who gets the top pick. And for me, that at least keeps guys playing, keeps guys active, keeps guys from selling off everything just to get the top pick. And now would that work in every league? I'd probably not. But it's worked pretty well in a lot of my leagues, just because it keeps people active and involved, because they're like, they can't just, set it and forget it and get the number 1 pick. They actually have to work for it a little bit. And I think, like you said in your league, where it's not a guarantee that you have the worst record that you get the 1-1. You got to still, there's X amount of balls. There's a little bit of a factor, luck factor in there as well.
Yeah, there's that, and there's if you win the toilet bowl in my home leagues, you get pick 113, which is also a perk. So you don't want to get rid of everybody. And second of all, you get the top picks 1 through 6 in round 1 go by. It's 36 balls for the least amount of max points for, then 25, 15, 12, 7, and 5, I think, are the last 6 balls. So there's perks for keeping a good team and having the least max points for, but trying to win that pick 113, because you could trade for 2 or 3 picks in the first round, and then you get pick 113. I mean, you're getting 4 first-round picks by having a competitive team that won the shit bowl, that kind of thing. So it's I think leagues like that just keep everything competitive. It keeps everything balanced instead of, then you don't get really too many people get a bad taste in their mouth about the worst teams kind of thing. So,
I would also add to this, with the fantasy football season kind of heading towards a close in the next few weeks, and rookie talk is going to start sweeping the dynasty landscape. Now is the perfect time in your dynasty leagues, if you haven't already, to draft your league's constitution. Have everything in writing, and do it now as everything is fresh in your mind in terms of what has happened this season. Get it out of the way, so that way, if an infraction does happen with a member of the league, hey, this was in writing. You know what you were getting into. You agreed to it. The league agreed to it. You're not going to follow it. Boom, you're out. We'll find somebody who will play by our rules, and that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Is right. Very good. Thank you guys for the commissioner topic this week. So let's get to some injuries that happened so far. This last week, we had Derek Carr had New Orleans quarterback concussion, shoulder, back, wrist. He's like, he's kind of like he's like the operation game. I think it's something that everywhere part of his body is broken. So we'll see what happens there. Not broken, but he might be out for a while. Then the second concussion this year, he might, Jameis Winston, who we'll talk about later. We talk about it every show. We'll talk about Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston will be a topic going on. He may have multiple starts this week. So Kenny Pickett, ankle, from what it sounds like, it's pretty bad, but they're saying by week 16 or 17, it might be back, which I think is kind of optimistic. But any other quarterbacks that had injuries that I missed, you guys can think of?
No, not off the top of my head. I guess we'll get into streaming options a little bit later, but no, nothing in terms of big injuries. Yeah.
Running back Ramondre Stevenson, of course, because a lot of these guys are on my team. So we'll, this is pretty much. I might as well just. This is what happens when you have a decent team and you get towards the playoffs. All my guys get hurt. But Ramondre Stevenson, running back, right ankle, he's probably out for the rest of the fantasy football season. So if you could trade him for picks or somebody else's running back that likes Ramondre Stevenson, somebody who's been pecking at your team all week, all year long to try and get Ramondre Stevenson, now's a good time to trade him away, because even if he comes back in week 17, he's probably going to have a limited workload with a high ankle sprain like that. So now's a good time to get draft picks for him or trade for a running back that could get you, through the fantasy football playoffs. Zach Charbonnet, another guy that's on my teams, knee swelling, and that might be knee swelling is funny. You never know. It could be this week only. They ice it up, everything's fine, or it could be a couple week reoccurring injury. Derrick Henry said he had concussion. Turns out he's not in concussion protocol, so he may play. But Tajay Spears get in there, get some work, look really good, and that's not a good sign for Derrick Henry's workload. DeAndre Swift, chest, ribs. That's kind of we tell JT's slip and slide story every time, and how I broke my ribs once. So it's one of those things where it's a pain tolerance thing. Brian Robinson, hamstring. Hammies are another funny thing. As we saw just last week with the Packers wide receiver reoccurring hamstring injuries. So it's something that you got to watch out for. Any other injuries or running backs that I missed, you guys? I think we're good there, right?
Yeah, I think it was that's the majority of them. So I was gonna see are they gonna unleash Antonio Gibson finally? John, your guy, your boy. It's like, or are they just gonna play a bunch of Chris Rodriguez and just piss you off even more? That Robinson's hurt. They can put Chris Rodriguez in.
You joke about that, but let me tell you, around the quote unquote water cooler, I live right outside of DC and have been a Commanders fan all my life. So yes, have mercy. But look, they're really high on him, and there's a reason why he's slowly getting incorporated more into this running game. So it could, I'm all aboard Gibson. I think he's gonna have a bounce back. You've seen the bounce back the past few weeks, especially in the receiving game with him and Robinson both being efficient there. But with no B-Rob, I think Gibby is about to work some magic here for fantasy managers.
Who's going to fumble more, Antonio Gibson or Chris Rodriguez? Because they're both. I mean, Chris Rodriguez was kind of a fumbler in college, so if there's anything that pisses off Chico more than fumbling, I don't know what it is, but that's the only reason Antonio Gibson gets in the doghouse. He looks like lightning and thunder, next to Brian Robinson, but he never gets on the field. And as soon as he starts doing good, he fumbles, and then it's back to the doghouse. So it's unfortunately, this is the first week in like 10 weeks, JT. I didn't ask an Antonio Gibson question.
I know. That's why I had to bring it up. I was like, I didn't see Antonio Gibson now. Get it out of the way then.
Wide receiver, Tank Dell, Houston, probably out for the year, that kind of deal. Left fibula, probably out for the fantasy football playoffs, out for the whole probably NFL season. Amari Cooper, concussion screening. The concussions are funny. We talk about that every week, how they're, sometimes it turns out like it looked like a mile one, and it's a 3 or 4 week injury. Puka Nacua ribs, those are always the rib stories. It's a pain tolerance issue. Hollywood Brown, a heel. I don't know the extent of that yet. It seems like it's going to be a week 15 or week 16 kind of thing. But that's to be determined. Christian Watson, hamstring, I forgot to mention his name earlier, but he had a hamstring issue. He had one early in the season, reoccurring. It looked pretty bad in the game. If you watch the game, he went down grabbing his hamstring. After the game, he was walking around kind of smiling, joking that they won, celebrating a big win versus the Chiefs. But those running full speed and walking around shaking hands at the end of the game is two different stories. So, and wide receivers I left off the list here, guys.
Christian Kirk with the groin injury, it looks like he's out. I think Ian Rappaport said yesterday the soonest he could come back is if the Jaguars made it to the championship game and or if even the Super Bowl. So he's droppable in redraft, and dynasty sucks, And
I don't know how I left Trevor Lawrence off the quarterback injury list. I have no idea how I forgot about that. But he's the reason I'm starting Zach Wilson this week because I have no quarterbacks on my team. So I'm into one of those guys who's there's nobody left on the 12-team, 25-man rosters with no kicker, no defense. There's no quarterbacks. I tried trading for a couple, but I'm going to have to start Zach Wilson, whether he plays or not, whether he decides to kind of get his feelings back in check and start. I might get a 0 at quarterback this year by necessity, or this week by necessity, because I have quarterbacks on buys and an injured Trevor Lawrence. So it is what it is. The tight end, Tyler Higbee, concussion. That's the same thing. It could be a week, could be 3 weeks. We'll never know. So we'll know. So any of your tight ends?
Well, news did come across earlier that Dawson Knox should be coming off of IR. So that's one less injured tight end that you have to worry about for your rosters.
Great. Now I can't enjoy Khalil Shakir anymore because Dawson Knox is going to come back. All right. Waiver wire for week 14. Quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew. Minshew, JT's favorite quarterback in the league. Gardner Minshew from the Colts. Joe Flacco from the Browns. Jameis Winston from the Saints. You might get a couple weeks because the concussion thing. So those are my 3 kind of go-to. There's tons of quarterbacks out there that you can probably stream, but any other recommended quarterbacks you guys should pick up on the waiver wire this week?
We saw Stafford finally have his first 20-point game, or his first or second 20-point game last week. He could be available. I think on Sleeper he is under 60% or 50% rostered. So that's somebody to pay attention to. But I really like the Flacco recommendation here. Who knew? Who knew that he still had the arm to make all the throws there? You mentioned Minshew already, and you mentioned Flacco, but I think Stafford, he's 51% rostered on Sleeper. So there's a chance that he's out there in some of your leagues that you could potentially pick him up.
Yes. Real fast, we just got done talking running backs, but stack team, 8 PPR roster, need 2 running backs in a flex. Kyron Williams, A-Chain, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Rashad Waite, Jalen Waddle, and Mike Evans. I mean, it's some pretty good players to choose from. I think real fast, you guys want to chime in, just pick 2 in a flex. Pick 3 of the best out of these ones. JT?
I mean, I'm trying to think who's playing who this week. Obviously, Mike Evans has been on fire. I gotta play Mike Evans in my flex probably, and then running backs probably Kyron Williams. It's so hard not to play. A-Chain is he's just it seems like he always ends up blowing up and getting huge points. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying not to start Jacobs and Barkley, but man, I think I might go that route. That's a tough call.
Jorge?
Yeah, I actually agree. The Rams are taking on Baltimore, but just the volume alone for Williams and the fact that the Rams can stretch it with the wide receivers to kind of keep the defense honest there in terms of stacking the box versus not stacking the box. So I like Kyren Williams and A-Chain. And I'm right there with Mike Evans. This guy, all he does is just make big plays after big play after big play every week. Waddle, he is the wide receiver 2. Evans is the clear-cut wide receiver 1. We saw Chris Godwin. His usage has just not been there that we've all been hoping for, especially a year coming off of the ACL. You figured that the medical experts out there, they always like to say, well, it's the second year after a wide receiver comes back from an ACL that they resume full function. And for whatever reason, whether it's Baker, whether it's the scheme or whatever, Evans has got a firm stranglehold on this wide receiver course. So give me A-Chain, Williams, and Evans.
Yeah, I'm a Josh Jacobs guy. He's always going to be in my heart, so I'm going to go Jacobs just because he's going to get 20-some carries plus the receptions out of the backfield. So and Rachaad White has been on fire lately. I traded him way earlier in the season for peanuts because I didn't think he was going to pan out this year, and it seems like every week he gets better. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I don't know what. It's a good problem to have all these players on one team. So that's good. And then he got the same guy says now's an awful time to trade away. I said something about trading away Ramondre Stevenson. Now is an awful time to trade away an injured guy. Don't act like the package is going to be any type of good. LOL. I don't know what the rest of Ramondre Stevenson's career is going to look like because being on the Patriots and getting volume is a good thing right now. But when you're going to be 26 years old in the free agent market, or they're going to probably import another running back somewhere. I'm not sure that you want that Ramondre Stevenson is a huge hold right now for anybody. So I don't know about that. And then Brian Failer, sit one of these players: Jefferson, Diggs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Kamara, Bijan, or Kyren Williams. Sit one of these guys. I'm not sitting Jefferson, even though he doesn't care about your fantasy football leagues. But when he's playing, you got to play him. Amon-Ra, I'm playing him probably. I mean, Brian asked me about this during the week. I don't. Bijan's playing Tampa Bay, so that's the only thing that kind of concerns me about that one. I unfortunately, the up and down games with Bijan, I'm just going to have to say probably Bijan here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Out of these, I think I would actually go Kyren just because the Ravens are allowing the 7th or 8th fewest points to the running back position. But I mean, I personally don't think Jefferson's playing, so this is a moot point. I think Jefferson, I don't know, there's something off there. But if I had to pick one, assuming everybody's playing, I think it'd be Kyren.
JT?
Yeah, I'm probably between Kyren or Kamara. Probably. I would Jefferson funky. I'm not sure I would consider.
You're breaking up a little bit. It's a tough one. I don't think these are really, really tough choices to choose from between having to sit one of these guys. So Brian, it's a good problem to have in any league to have all these guys and having the one guy to sit out of, all of them. So JT, you're back. What'd you say real fast?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I kind of froze up there for a second. Yeah, I was just saying, for me, if Jefferson plays, okay, I don't know if he's going to play, so he'd probably be my first sit. But if he ends up playing, I would probably say Kamara or Kyren. I'd be between those two guys.
You guys would both play Bijan just because he had a lot of work last week.
Well, he's been seeing
the
some.
Falcons are always going to run.
Yeah. All right, there you go, Brian. It's not in our league, so I can give you advice. I'm not playing you this week anyway, so we're good. So, all right, back to the show sheet. Wide receiver. We didn't do running backs. Zeke Elliott, Patriots. Roschon Johnson, Bears, who I'm crossing my fingers at some point in time is going to finally take this job over. My guy, Kenny Kenny Gainwell from the Eagles. DJ Dallas is kind of the last of importance in this. Running back wise, do you think Zeke's going to get the full workload here? Out of these guys, did I miss anybody? Who do you like in this group?
Yeah, I think Zeke is going to get the full workload. How efficient that's going to be is a different story. You're not going to get, prime Dallas Zeke Elliott getting a full workload in terms of performance, but he's one of those guys who is, in my perspective, he's one of those grinded out yard by yard type of running backs at this point in his career. So depending on really who's the quarterback and who's going to be moving the ball down the field, if they're able to get within the 5-yard line or within the 10-yard line, I feel more comfortable with Zeke. But my favorite here is Roschon. We still don't know if Foreman is going to play this week, and we saw him take the majority of snaps, when they played Minnesota. So, I like Kenny Gainwell. I really like DJ Dallas in terms of we don't know what's happening with Charbonnet, and we don't know what's happening with Kenneth Walker. But Roschon is definitely my favorite out of the list here.
JT. I think he froze up again. All right, so wide receiver, Elijah Moore, Noah Brown, Jalen Hyatt, Zay Jones from the Jaguars. Elijah Moore just seems to be the favorable target for Joe Flacco here. And I like Elijah Moore. I think he's a talented wide receiver. And I'm glad I held on to him. If this pans out through the playoff run, Noah Brown's going to get some volume now. Jalen Hyatt just seems to be – I was super wrong on Jalen Hyatt. I switched him and Jameson Williams. I was the table pounder for Jameson Williams and could not stand Jalen Hyatt coming out. And I've got rid of Jameson Williams and imported Jalen Hyatt on almost every one of my teams. So, Jorge, this list of wide receivers, first of all, what about those guys and anybody else you want to add?
So I really am excited for Noah Brown. He plays outside. We saw the 2 games where it was either Dell out or Nico Collins out. He comes in, he posts over 100 yards. He posts over 20 fantasy points in half PPR. If anything, filling in for Tank Dell could be Woods. It could be Mechie. They could move him around. But, with the fact that Noah Brown still plays on the outside, as opposed to moving inside in the slot. I like him out of the group. Elijah Moore is right there behind him. A lot of people want to talk about Parker Washington and the fact that as soon as Christian Kirk went down on Monday night, he came in and had his breakout game as a rookie, right? But the next couple of games are going to be kind of tough against wide receivers in terms of defensive matchups. So people may want to have not put a lot of fab or put a high waiver priority on him this week.
With a backup quarterback also, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right. Tight ends, Gerald Everett, Brevin Jordan, who I like a lot, Isaiah Likely, Tucker Kraft, Kate Otten, Greg Dulcich coming off IR. A lot of tight ends on this list this week to pick up. Tight ends are kind of a frustrating position, but who do you like the most out of these guys, and did I miss anybody?
If Dalton Schultz wasn't coming back, I'd be pro Brevin Jordan. The CJ Stroud has the most passing yards after this past week in the NFL. Second is Sam Howell. So I would have liked to be Jordan, but with Schultz coming back, like I said, that kind of decreases his value a little bit. Give me Gerald Everett though. He's been producing lately. He seems to be the de facto number 2 option there in the red zone for Justin Herbert, followed by Kraft, Otten, Tucker, and Dulcich are kind of. I'm staying away from those, to be honest with you, if I can. Yeah,
especially Dulcich. I don't know what's going on. Guys had hamstring problems in college and in the pros his entire career. He's got to go go to some stretch camp or something like that to stretch out his hamstrings. But Kate Otten's asleep. He's always on the field. He's a good blocker. He's I like him a lot anyway. But as far as fantasy is concerned, he's more of a best ball kind of guy. So Kraft's filling in a position right now for an injured. Why am I not? Who's the Packers tight end? Why am I not forgetting? Musgrave.
Musgrave. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brevin Jordan, I've had on my team for a couple of years now. Or is it his third year in the league, I think. But I like him, and I just wish they didn't sign. Oh my God, I don't know why I'm having brain farts today.
Schultz.
I wish they didn't sign Schultz because Brevin Jordan is one of those players I think could be special in this league if when he gets a full opportunity and everything's running right with a good quarterback. So, JT, any tight ends I missed here?
I don't think so. Sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of internet issues, so I'm back in.
All right. Let's run through these NFL news and rumors. I'm going to ask you guys a question about team specific for each team. We're just trying to keep it to like 10, 15-second answer real fast. Just kind of get to the point and just say, this is what I think. So, Jorge, we'll start with you. The Bears are rumored to be looking at Eric Bieniemy as their next head coach. Is that the right move after watching the Commanders' offense this year?
It's the right move for whoever they have at quarterback. Needless to say, the passing offense for Washington has been amazing in terms of Sam Howell, in terms of the quarterback passing yards. I'm a little concerned as far as what they're planning to do at wide receiver. It almost would be a translational move, whoever they brought in. For fantasy purposes, there's not a wide receiver for the Commanders in the top 20 in yards. For rushing, Robinson is number 16 in rushing yards. So concern for fantasy. For real football, I think anything's an upgrade creatively, offensively, schematically than what they have now.
So if the Bears imported Marvin Harrison Jr., do you think they should keep Justin Fields for another year and just see if a new coach and better players is the problem and it's not Justin Fields?
Well, I always believe you build around you create the supporting cast and then you bring in the rookie to make life easier for the rookie. So I would get Marvin Harrison, yeah, and then bring in Bieniemy and keep Fields. Maybe it's 1 or 2 year deal or something like that. But let's build a supporting cast with Chicago, and then if you need to draft a quarterback, cool, you have the weaponry in place already with DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, it's sign a 5th year option, keep him around for 1 more year, and then if it doesn't work out, trade him to somebody for his 5th. I guess you can't trade him when you still in a 5th year option, but we'll see what happens there. But I'm okay with keeping Fields for another year. JT, could any quarterback look like a star in this offense, like Jake Browning, or is Jake Browning actually good?
I mean, it helps the players around him. I think they set up a good game plan. Obviously, Jamar Chase makes everyone look good. But I think he played a really solid game. I mean, I'm on Twitter looking at, talking to Steelers fans like, we can't get any production whatsoever. And Jake Browning comes in and throws for 300 and a bunch of touchdowns. I know a bunch of fan bases are frustrated when they saw that. But I think Jake Browning is a decent player. I mean, he was pretty good in college, and I think it's a friendly system, and it helps when you have all those offensive guys around you. But we'll see. It's a one game. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. When one guy has a huge game one time, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate to every week.
Jorge, Bills, is Khalil Shakir a thing in this offense? Because I'm sick of playing the Khalil Shakir, Gabe Davis roulette game on my roster, and we just talked about Dawson Knox coming back now too. So is Khalil Shakir like a hold on your roster, or is he someone that you just trade away right now for picks?
Look, since week 9, he's number 1 in receiving yards for the Bills, receiving yards per game, yards at the catch per reception, 3rd in points per game in half and in full. The only problem is he's 4th in target share behind Kincaid, Diggs, and Gabe Davis. Only has a 10.2% target share. Look, the efficiency metrics are there, but if he's not getting more looks, there's no point. The Bills, it's Josh Allen first, then it's Diggs, and now it seems to be Kincaid. And there's a reason why this offense has looked stagnant. Although, albeit last time they played with the new offensive coordinator, they kind of looked back. They looked better. But Shakir needs more looks, man. I can't co-sign on starting him without more target opportunities.
Yeah, JT, Broncos. Is it time to move on from Marvin Mims, or is he a hold, seeing how this majority of the wide receivers don't pan out after they hardly ever pan out after year 1?
I mean, I like Marvin Mims. He's had a hard time figuring out where he fits in this offense. I'm not giving him up unless somebody loves him and it absolutely is giving me a huge deal for him. I'm holding him. I just think, sometimes these rookies blow up and then everybody expects every rookie to blow up their first year, and it's not realistic. I think we want to see where the Broncos go with their wideouts next year. I think there's a chance he gets a lot more looks next season. So I'm holding Mims.
I'm trading everywhere I possibly can to get Mims on my teams. And the people who like Mims, and the people who don't. The people that have like Mims have him on their team, and he's not going anywhere. So it's kind of a tough sell right now. Let's see where we at. Jorge Browns. Would you rather have Elijah Moore or Cedric Tillman on your dynasty roster right now?
I like Moore. He's just been incorporated more into this receiving game. There is the upside for Tillman, but he's just, again, I like the follow opportunities. He's fourth in the pecking chart and target share amongst wide receivers and tight ends on the team. Again, it's just about the opportunity. And, we don't know what Amari Cooper's situation is going to be after next year. Does he stay with the Browns? Does he move on? Do they let him go? Do they trade him? You never know. And I think if given the opportunity, Moore could be a successful wide receiver one in Cleveland.
Very good. JT, Buccaneers. What's the best landing spot to recharge Chris Godwin's career in 2024?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure what the situation is there. I'm not sure why he's not getting more involved. I'm sure there's a ton of teams that would love him. I mean, I guess it depends on the cost and what it would take to get him. But I think there's a lot of places he would actually fit. And maybe it is one of those things where he just needs a new setting. Maybe, that will jumpstart him and somebody can figure out how to use him. He's been frustrating this year. I'm just really surprised at how little they've used him. It's kind of shocking because it's not like outside of Mike Evans, they've had a lot of anyone else doing a ton. So it's kind of surprising, honestly. But I think a lot of teams could use him.
He was getting tons of targets earlier in the year. I just don't understand why his production just went away. But yeah, again, I'm hoping he goes somewhere that needs a slot receiver that has a big volume offense. So we'll see. I'd like to see him. Excuse me. I'd like to see him go to Jacksonville for Trevor Lawrence and just get pelted over there. That'd be nice. Jorge, Cardinals. When does Michael Carter take over this backfield?
I don't think this season, as long as James Conner remains healthy. The past 2 weeks we've seen 132 rushing yards for Conner to 44 for Michael Carter. You kind of know at this point with Michael Carter, or at least you knew in college, he was a 1-2 punch type of running back, wasn't a carry the load type of player. You saw what he did with Javonte Williams at North Carolina. So I think he's going to be a complementary piece for this offense as long as James Conner is the starting running back. And even if Conner is let go for some reason because the guy just can't stay on a field a full season, I still don't see Carter being the guy who just is the bell cow for any team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know, especially with the Trey McBride kind of resurgence here for taking out the middle of the field. I'm not sure there's going to be too many dump offs for running back, so it is what it is. But I'm a Michael Carter guy, so I have to ask Michael Carter questions. JT, Chargers. What causes the Chargers not to get the ball in the end zone?
This team has been extremely frustrating. I mean, if I could take one team that I've lost more bets on this season, it's probably the Chargers. I mean, I just can't understand this team, how they're not better. They've got a lot of talent. Obviously, the wide receiver is a problem, but I don't know with Eckler and everything else how they can't get in the end zone more. It just blows my mind. I see people out there questioning Herbert. I'm like, man, Herbert is an absolute stud. And the fact that people are out there questioning whether he's actually good or not because of how bad this offense has been, it just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, it's terrible. Jorge, Chiefs. The Chiefs just seem to be – they have no sense of urgency, it seems like. Are they just bored with the offense or mad because it's someone else who drops a game-winning pass every week? What's the story here?
The story is, cockiness, to be honest with you. We saw the Chiefs and we saw the success they had last year, and like, oh, we don't need Tyreek Hill, we don't need a true number one wide receiver, we'll just pass it to people all around the field and make it work. And then down the stretch of the field, it's like, oh, we'll just make it the Pacheco and more importantly the Jerick McKinnon show and Travis Kelce. And my thought process is like, why did they stop doing that this season? Like, obviously it was working. I guess they want to develop more players that, Rashee Rice is somebody who they should probably getting the ball more to than MVS, to be honest with you. I don't know why he's all of a sudden becoming somebody that they're trusting. They're picking the wrong players to give the opportunities to and not putting the ball in their best playmakers' hands, to be honest with you.
for MVS to run all those wind sprints and then just get needed one time the whole year long and drop it in the end zone, like it's like, come on, man, like you had one job, like you didn't.
He's done it his whole career.
9
It's like,
weeks in a
why are you
row.
expecting anything different now? I mean, that's what he's done his entire career: run deep and drop a pass.
It's like Featherstone, like he's got like, oh, it's absolutely terrible. JT Colts Minshew mustache mania will get home as a starter next season, or is he just a career backup?
Oh man, I really like what he's done this year with them. Turnovers are an issue. I mean, outside the turnovers, he's looked really good, man. He's got some real bad turnovers that have cost him this year. With how bad the QB play in the league has been, you'd think he gets a shot, but I'm not sure. I honestly think the Colts keep him and he stays as a backup to AR, especially since, we've seen the injury already this year. He's a guy that runs the ball. He's going to take some hits. I think they're going to need a solid backup for him no matter what in his career. I think he stays on the Colts and he's probably a backup.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you put Minshew on the Steelers in replacement of Kenny Pickett. How high are you bumping up Steelers skill players on your in your rankings?
That is an absolute fantastic question I hadn't thought of. But I think they actually are better. I've been a Kenny backer all year, and I am starting to waver big time. He is not seeing the field. He's missing open guys. This spin move out of the pocket has just been a disaster. He doesn't step up when he needs to. I actually think all the Steelers players bump up on my list if Minshew is actually the QB there. The biggest issue for him has been turnovers. If he hasn't turned over the ball, that's the times he's looked bad. He's looked really good outside of the turnovers.
This is like if Alien and Predator had a baby for JT. It's like his two favorite things. And then because he's a Colts season ticket holder and he loves the Steelers. So if like Minshew went to the Steelers, he'd probably buy Minshew underwear at that point in time. They would be like the best.
I probably would.
Jorge, Cowboys. Did the Cowboys bring back Brandon Cooks next season, or is it Jalen Tolbert's time to shine?
They absolutely should, and they probably will bring back Brandon Cooks. Look, he is. We saw since the bye, Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy were like, we have this other wide receiver besides CeeDee Lamb. We need to keep, involved in this offense. Let's give it to this guy, and it's worked wonders. Jalen Tolbert, I think, is the replacement for, and this hurts me very deeply, the replacement for Michael Gallup, because we've seen, the target share numbers for Tolbert, increase over Gallup's target share of 8.9% since week 10 for Tolbert, only 5.7 for Gallup. Gallup is far from the wide receiver he was when he had that 1,000-yard season, and it's about time to move on.
Yeah, Cooks is going to be 31 years old and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Plus the money issue, and I don't know. I like Cooks a lot too, but this is my trying to say how much I like Jalen Tolbert and why I want him to be the number 2 receiver on the Cowboys. Kind of cry here, so it is what I'm surprised you root for. You got anything nice to say about the Cowboys as a Commanders fan? That's kind of that's a little weird.
He helped me through a tough time during a tough fantasy season. Let me just put it like that. And so I'll always be appreciative to Michael Gallup, but the player, not the team. So
very good, very good. JT Dolphins. Devin Achane's big playability is wonderful, but is he going to be a long-term dynasty asset at 188 pounds?
It's tough. I mean, the guy makes great plays. Is he as good of a player on another team as he is on the Dolphins? I don't necessarily think so. I think the Dolphins are just kind of that perfect spot for him. I'm worried about him staying healthy. I think he's going to be one of those guys, if you get 8 to 10 games out of him a year, you're going to be pumped, and he's going to be the guy you're going to plug in the lineup every time he's out there. But I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of knick-knack injuries for him over his career. I hope that's not the case. I hope he figures out how to stay healthy, but it's not a good sign here in the first season how much he's been nicked up.
Yeah, he's like a finely tuned, well-oiled machine. If anything goes wrong or a little bit off, I don't think he'll be the same player that, unless you can run that 4.3 speed, that's definitely his calling card. Jorge, Eagles, you're getting all the good teams here for your favorite division. Is Devonta Smith the most underrated wide receiver 2 in the league right now?
Yeah, he is. We go back to since week 8, 7 targets, 15.9 PPR, 3, 11.1, 8 targets, 9.9, 8 targets, 16.6, 11 targets, 15.6. On the season in PPR, he's the wide receiver 16 with 15.3 points per game. Like what more do you have to say about this guy? Since week 10, he's wide receiver 6 in yards per game. I understand there's this whole debate going back and forth, like, oh, well, is it Devonta Smith? Is it AJ Brown who's the true one? And then for most of the season, it's been AJ Brown, and people have been like slandering Devonta Smith, like, oh, see, I told you he wasn't really a one. Well, he's playing pretty damn good, and he may not be the one, but he's probably the best wide receiver 2 you can find out there.
Damn straight. Good answer, Jorge. That's what I want. That's why you came here. I love that. He's my favorite player in the NFL, I think, right now. This most underrated guy. I love him. JT Falcons. I know the Jets' pass defense is really good, but only one target to any wide receiver is just ridiculous. Are you trying to buy low on Drake London, or is he just an avoid altogether?
I'm not a Drake London guy, and it's not because I don't like Drake London. I just don't believe that this coaching staff, until there's a coaching staff change, I just don't think they're ever going to change their philosophy. They're going to want to run the ball no matter what, whether it's working or not. They're going to pound the rock, and they're going to just throw as little as they possibly have to. So I'm not out on Drake London, the player per se. I'm just out on the situation right now.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Definitely tough. Jorge, 49ers. George Kittle may not be the league's leading scorer, but he's the team's MVP for all he does in this offense. True or false?
He's the break glass in case of emergency, and sometimes the focal point of this passing offense. We saw it last week, Debo. We've seen it all season, Ayuk. We've seen, the big games, the big breakout games from George Kittle. But, they're just a complete package there, and Kittle offers them such an upside at that position, more so than any other team, I think, outside of the Chiefs with Travis Kelce. So, yeah, he's definitely their team's MVP, I believe.
The way he blocks downfield for receivers to get open. There was a bunch of clips running around. I retweeted one too about him. He blocked 2 guys in the corner of the end zone to get Debo Samuel a score from like the 12-yard line. Debo went around Kittle and he walled off. He kind of pianoed to a cornerback and a safety, which is not really hard to block cornerbacks, but safeties sometimes are a whole different animal. And he goes downfield on running plays, on passing plays. He opens things up for the rest of this team. And without him on a team, I'm not sure the team would be as successful as they are. Which maybe his fantasy football stats don't point that kind of stuff out. But as a team player, the guy's invaluable as an asset in a starting offense, in my opinion. So. JT Giants. Is Jalen Hyatt a better dynasty target than Michael Wilson, Quentin Johnson, Jonathan Mingo, or Marvin Mims at this point in time?
Ooh, that's I don't think he is over all those guys. I would take him over Quentin Johnston. I'm just not a Quentin Johnston guy. I'd rather have Mims. I'd rather have Wilson. I'd rather have both those guys than Hyatt. But I also wasn't real huge on Hyatt coming out. Him and Johnson were 2 of the guys I was probably lowest on in this draft class, and I just didn't want either one of them. I didn't take them, either one of them, almost anywhere. So I'd rather have Wilson or Mims. But I'm probably neck and neck on Johnson and Hyatt. I'd probably go the upside of Hyatt over Johnson at this point.
Yeah. Jorge, Jaguars. Is Trevor Lawrence generational, but does he really need a true number 1 in this roster to bully Ridley, Kirk, and Ingram into just like role players kind of thing, right? I mean, what I'm saying, I guess, is Trevor Lawrence needs a real number 1 on his team next year to have this offense really, even though they're good, they could be so much better if he had a go-to guy, right?
Well, look, if he's truly generational, then he could make it work with very solid wide receiver 2s. The only issue is this year, you're not seeing Ingram having the same success he had the year before. Calvin Ridley, look, I think all of us in the fantasy community coming into this season really overestimated Calvin Ridley's upside. And I'm not talking about the fact that he had a year off and we should be patient with that. In Atlanta, we loved Calvin Ridley. Remember, he was the 2 behind Julio. He wasn't the 1. Okay. So he showed a trajectory, towards going up to being maybe that 1 role. And then he had to go screw it up with the gambling. And it takes a year off. He comes to Jacksonville. He gets traded to Jacksonville. maybe next year he'll keep that ascension going. But right now, whoever's the quarterback, whether it's Lawrence or whoever Beathard is it now in Jacksonville, a bunch of wide receiver twos and an underperforming pass catching tight end.
Yeah, and I think even generational quarterbacks still need some kind of help anyway. You can only go so far with, in a rowboat, even if you are the best, sailor in the world. So it is what it is. JT, Jets, do you blame Zach Wilson for telling the Jets to piss off?
This story is wild to me, but I personally, I don't know who thought that Tim Boyle was the answer or going to make any difference whatsoever. To me, that was mind-boggling, just a baffling move. Like, not that Zach Wilson's been amazing, but it's why are you not sticking with him? Why are you not playing him? You kept him as your number 2. You didn't go out and get anybody else. I just didn't make any sense to me that they sat him thinking that Tim Boyle somehow was going to make this huge upgrade over Wilson. And if I was Wilson, I'd probably pretty pissed off about it too, honestly.
Yeah, I think all these other backup quarterbacks are coming on the league and actually doing things, and maybe the Jets just kind of see what they had to see what they had. The other guys maybe give it a chance. Only thing I could think of, but I mean, what is the future of Zach Wilson anyway? If somebody else goes down, what are you going to do? Or else you're drafting a new quarterback. You're waiting for Rodgers, which probably not going to happen now. But man, I guess if I was Zach Wilson, I'd be super pissed right now too. Dude, get out of here, man. This is bullshit. I'd be so sick of it. Just trade me away if you're not going to use it.
Yeah, seriously. Get rid of me, trade me somewhere else, and I'll see if I can make it work somewhere else. But yeah, Tim Boyle's a guy, nothing against Tim Boyle, but he's a guy I'm always shocked is even in the league. I really am. I'm like, why is this guy on a roster? And yet he keeps making rosters and people keep playing him. And I'm like, why? Why are you playing him? He's never been good in his entire career. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. Honestly, they should have just stayed with Zach Wilson. And, for what it is, if he's bad, but you got to play him.
Yeah. Jorge, Lions, Jameson Williams will only be a best ball gimmick player at this level in the NFL. True or false?
True. There's nothing that he's done that shows you otherwise.
Good man. Good answer. Truth. JT. What was his he said, don't call me J-Mo anymore. Call me I forgot what he said his name was, but it's pretty much to the extent of I need more targets kind of thing. JT, Packers. Is this a good stretch for Jordan Love, or is he the future in Green Bay, in the long list of Hall of Fame quarterbacks?
Well, I'm still not sure what I think about Jordan Love. I think he's played well going on here, but again, I think we're just way too quick to judge these guys. We're not giving them any time. I mean, guy's not even a full season in to being a starter, and it's like, oh, he's awesome. Oh, now he's terrible. Oh, now he's awesome again. It's like, I mean, guys are going to have ups and downs. Guys are going to have good games. They're going to have bad games. I think it's going to take some time to figure out whether he is really the man or not. Obviously, if you're the Packers, you've waited this long. You got to give him. I think you got to give him a little bit of a leash. And he's played solid, but I'm not totally sold. I'm not out there buying up Jordan Love anywhere at this point. But I think he's got a shot to be decent. I just don't know what his ceiling is just yet.
He's got eerie similarities to Aaron Rodgers, kind of the way he moves and throws. It's like, man, it's disgusting as a Bears fan to watch him kind of dance around the pocket and throw these sidearm kind of I mean, they showed that stupid graphic out where he jumped in the air and threw a ball, which I don't really, that's the Brett Favre one and the Aaron Rodgers one, and then him doing it too. That's kind of yeah, whatever. But just the way that he moves and kind of throws sidearm and does. Watching Aaron Rodgers tear at the Bears for so many years, which I'm more of a fantasy fan than I am NFL team fan anymore anyway. But just he has a lot of mannerisms that remind you of Aaron Rodgers anyway, and it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit. Jorge, Panthers, would you trade away Sam Howell to get Bryce Young on a dynasty roster right now?
So you asked this question to me last night. We talked about it before the show, and I'm changing my answer because I had all this time to think about it. I would not trade away Sam Howell for Bryce Young. Both teams, you don't know what's happening with the coaching situation. Sam Howell has shown with a porous offensive line, getting beat to you-know-what every single week, he still makes plays passing the ball. He makes plays running the ball when he has to. And more importantly, the Washington Commanders have better offensive weaponry around him than the Carolina Panthers will for the foreseeable future. So I would keep Sam Howell and let someone else deal with the headache for Bryce Young.
Yeah, yes, JT.
I love it.
JT, same thing.
Yeah, I originally, when you asked me, I said, draft capital, you probably got to go Bryce Young. But me personally, I would make that deal to get Howell. I would trade Ray. If I had Bryce Young, I'd trade him away for Howell. I like Howell, but I've been a Howell guy from the beginning. I thought he was underdrafted. I couldn't believe he lasted as long as he did in the draft. He was a guy that I loved in college. I just couldn't believe he fell. And he's a guy I drafted and took in startups and dynasties everywhere this year. I'm a Sam Howell guy. I actually, with everything that's gone wrong in Washington this year, he still looked really good. And for a guy that's just gotten beat up, I like Howell. I hope that whoever comes in to Washington, if they change coaching staffs and do that they stay with him, because I think he can be a really good player. I think he's really shown that he's got that ability. He's got that it factor. I like Howell a lot. Right now I trust Howell way more than I trust Bryce Young.
So I texted, like, I don't know how many, you two guys, Nick Script. I texted Michael Bauer, Kevin Coleman. Across the board, I wanted to get everybody else's, just like, I don't want because he was drafted 101 kind of answer. I wanted to get kind of deep into it, but it's just I got this trade yesterday sent to me because I needed a quarterback on an 11-0 team going into week 14. I didn't want to lose just not having a quarterback. I'm like, do I take this chance to trade away Sam Howell for which would have been a bad week anyway for Bryce Young to start him? But I mean, it's like still not getting a 0 in a Superflex league for your starting quarterback position, not having one. And ruining a perfect season by not having a quarterback, but losing the dynasty asset of, it was just a tough situation. So I appreciate you guys chiming in on that. It was, I think I'm just going to take the 0 this week and not screw the perfect season. It is what it is. So hopefully I win anyway, but it was a dilemma that I was really, really, I don't want to make the wrong decision on. So thank you very much for that.
John, you never know. I was in a league this week where I had all the Giants and Raiders quarterbacks in a super flex. I started 0 QBs. I actually started Sam Darnold as my quarterback, and I still won. So, and then I'm in another league in a 2 QB league where a guy in my division has not had a starting quarterback for 4 weeks because of injuries, and he's won every week, and he just made the playoffs. Without a starting quarterback in a start 2 QB league for 4 weeks, he actually beat me by 2 games in our division, and I've got Howell, T-Law, and Justin Fields, and I lost this guy. I can't believe it. I'm so angry about it. It blows my mind. So you could definitely win without having a starting QB this week. It's definitely possible.
And here I am with Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and Patrick Mahomes as my 3 starting quarterbacks in the Superflex league, and I don't even make the damn playoffs. I mean, it's hearing those stories makes me want to punch myself in the face.
It makes no sense sometimes.
Oh, I want to just. All right, show's over. I'm going to go punch myself around. Oh, jeez. All right, where are we at now? Where are we at? The Packers? Wait, no.
We just did Packers. Yep, we did Packers.
Panthers, right? Packers. We did the Packers.
We did Packers. We did the Panthers. Bryce Young was the last one.
Patriots. Is there any way to right this ship, JT?
This is a lost season. You start looking towards next year, figure out what changes you're going to make. Is Belichick coming back? Are you going to politely ask him to retire? That's where you got to figure out what you're doing, because this team is an absolute mess, and it's not getting better this year. I think I love the fact that they gave Bailey Zappi a shot. It didn't go over well with 0 points put up, but I think this team is just a wreck. It's time to break it down and just rebuild.
Raiders. Jorge, Raiders. Should Josh Jacobs just stay with the Raiders, be a bell cow, keep getting paid, or go somewhere else and win a ring?
I mean, assuming that they don't franchise tag him and Jacobs has the option, I would go to any contending team I can. the Raiders are not it. Go to Buffalo, go to insert team that needs a running back, any team that needs a running back that's in contention. So go to Baltimore.
Yes.
That's where I want to see Josh Jacobs go in Florida. I don't want to see him still in Vegas a year from now.
Houston, Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's okay like that. There's tons of teams out there who can really use a running back. Minnesota, like whatever. Yeah, exactly. So I get it. We're JT Rams. Did you miss the selling window for Cooper Kupp?
I bought him at probably the absolute apex worst possible time and paid a ton for him in a few leagues. And I'm just looking back and I'm like, I talked to one of the guys in my leagues I bought him from, and he was like, "Oh, I got this guy, this." He's like, "I got Mayer, I got Flowers, I got all these guys." And I'm like, man, I really wish I would have not traded him and kept all those players and got those draft picks. But at this point, if you're selling him, you're not going to get anywhere near what you could 2 years ago. And if you bought him, you're not going to get anywhere near what you bought him for. It's just not going to happen. So at this point, I'm just taking my losses. And I'm just keeping them and hoping I can get whatever I can out of them production wise.
Yeah, I think one of those worst trades I've seen was in one of my leagues. Somebody paid 3 firsts for J.K. Dobbins right before he got hurt the first time. And it was just like, ever since then, he's like, And his team was like average. Just he thought J.K. Dobbins would be like to put him over the edge kind of thing. And just it's been, now he doesn't have J.K. Dobbins or 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, those are the trades that just crush your team for years.
Crush is right. Jorge, Ravens. Are the Ravens the most overrated team in the NFL right now?
I think they're the most underrated team because they come across as the most boring team. You have these young wide receivers that they're still developing, although Zay Flowers, I feel like, is the real deal. You lost Mark Andrews. Okay, Isaiah Likely, he's not Mark Andrews, but he's serviceable. You look at the defensive line, Jadeveon Clowney's having a resurgence in his career. Duffy Oweh's been playing solid. Justin Matabuki is playing fantastic. I think he's had a sack the past 9 weeks in a row, which has been ridiculous. The linebacking core, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, and they're getting Marlon Humphrey back from injury. I think they're the most underrated team, and I think they're still first in the AFC. So, I'm excited for the Ravens this year.
JT, all that IDP talk made you happy, didn't it?
Oh yeah, their defense has been phenomenal. I mean, if you got their players in IDP leagues, you've been loving it because those guys have been putting up points this year.
Yes, yep. JT, Saints. Jameis Winston might be the Saints' mister right now, but after the season, he's probably gone, right?
I'm confused about the whole situation. When he stayed, it made sense that he thought he would stay because he thought he was going to get a chance to be the starter. They go out, they get Derek Carr, and he just continues to be the backup. At this point, I don't know if the window is past for him, and it's like, hey, now you're just career backup for the rest of the time. I'm not sure if any team would go out there and invest in him as a guaranteed starter. So I think he kind of missed his window there with his opportunity. I hope he gets a shot. I hope he plays well, but I just don't know if a team is really going to go out there and invest in him, even with how much horrible QB play we've seen. I just don't know if anybody would. I mean, he hasn't done anything enough to commit for a team to commit good money to him to give him the guaranteed starter job. So I would love to see him get a shot somewhere. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Somebody had said on my timeline when I was, Jameis Winston is obviously my favorite player in the league, as everybody knows. I wish he had more chances, but I think at this point in time, somebody had said that he seems content to be a career backup, and that kind of like it hit my heart a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe you're right. I got to move on to somebody else. It is what it is. So, Jorge, Seahawks. Is Geno Smith's boomer bust best ball resume sustainable long term as Seattle's? As long as Seattle sneaks into playoffs, or should Seattle just bring in some competition next year?
Yeah, I think he's doing fine. He's had some down weeks. He started off the season kind of slow. But you go back to week 9 and let's talk about week 8 really, and move back down. Finally the offensive tackles started getting healthy. He had a 20 game, a 22 game, and then he had a horrible game against the Ravens. But then a 41-point game against the Commanders, 17-point game 10-point game against the 49ers, but then you saw last Thursday the 49-point game. I'm sorry, these are inflated by what do you call it? By this leagues that I'm looking at currently. They have bonus settings, which I just hate. Anyhow, my point is that he's been playing really well. Has a few bad games here and there, but I wouldn't, you signed him to the contract in the offseason. I don't see why at this point there's a glaring need to bring in competition.
All right. I can swallow that. JT Steelers. How big of a loss is Kenny Pickett to his offense? Are the Steelers ready to just throw in a towel or what?
It's like as soon like last week or 2 weeks ago, they get rid of Canada. Finally, every Steelers fan rejoice when they get rid of Canada, and you think, all right, we're turning a corner, and then they come out and just lay an egg against the Cardinals, which again, I was telling people all week before the game started, I was like, this is a game the Steelers lose every year. Every year they lose to one of the two worst teams in the league. It never fails. And I just kept trying to convince myself that they were going to win, even though I kept telling everyone they were going to lose. And then when they did exactly what I said they were going to do, I still was mad and upset about it. They just are not prepared for some of these games. They just take certain teams lightly. And now that Pickett's hurt, I don't know where this offense goes with Mitch Trubisky. I mean, I would hope you'd see some improvement. I mean, they've got talent. It's not like they don't have good players on offense, but they cannot find a quarterback to unlock all these guys. And it's really frustrating because the defense has played, really well for all the injuries the defense has had. And this team is they've just been a horror to watch all year. They keep getting wins, but they're ugly. Every game's ugly, and you just don't trust them at all.
Yeah, it seems like a Mike Tomlin 8-8 offense. That's I love Mike Tomlin, but this is just this kind of thing that he does. So
yeah, it's every year they do it. Every year you can go back the last decade, and I guarantee you look through the schedule and they lost to a bottom 3 team in a game they never should have lost, and it's happened every year of his career.
Jorge, Texans. Are you targeting Noah Brown, John Mechie, or Brevin Jordan going forward after the Tank Dell injury? Now, I say Brevin Jordan because I was kind of hoping that Brevin Jordan would take over he'd have a couple good weeks and possibly take over the tight end in one role in this offense. But I don't think that's going to happen. That's more of me wish casting because he's on a lot of my teams. But who's the next man up for in Houston?
It's Noah Brown. It's most definitely Noah Brown. Mentioned it a little bit earlier. In the 2 games he either came on in relief for Nico Collins or for Tank Dell. Back-to-back 100-yard games. The target share is still there. The opportunity is going to be there. He's a huge downfield threat. And he's, I think, in terms of since week 10, I believe he's like second on the team in first target reads. So yeah, it's Noah Brown for me.
I was kind of pissed off when he didn't fit in with Dallas last couple of years. So I'm glad he's getting a chance somewhere else now. JT Titans. The Tajay Spears toothpaste cannot be put back in the bottle. So is Derrick Henry's days numbered as far as like a bell cow running back the rest of the season?
I just think they want to get Spears more involved. And again, they're with the injuries that have happened lately to Henry, I just don't think they want to just beat him into the ground. So I don't think Spears is going away anytime soon. I think he's definitely going to be in the mix. I don't think they go away from Henry altogether. I just don't see a lot of 22, 25, 26 carry games in his future. I think they're going to use them, but I think they're going to definitely mix in Spears going forward.
I mean, there's plenty they both had 20 carries last week or something like that. So, I mean,
if I'm this team and Will Levis is my QB, I'm running the ball as much as possible personally.
Get off my boy.
I had to get a shot in there, John.
Jorge, Vikings. Should Minnesota start Pasternaut or Nick Mullins going forward?
It has to be the Pasternaut, Joshua Dobbs. He had a couple bad games. Denver's defense has been playing really well lately. Chicago's, the acquisition of Montez Sweat and, the other defensive end whose name is eluding me right now. He's actually been playing well. His win rate and presser rate the past couple of weeks has been really well. So that's kind of freeing up Montez Sweat to get some good opportunities one-on-one with the quarterback. And we saw it happen 2 weeks ago versus the Bears. Versus the Vikings. So, but anyhow, where I'm going with this is keep the faith in Josh Dobbs. He has a great week 15 and 16 for the first 2 rounds of the fantasy playoffs.
JT, how does Terry McLaurin not catch a ball when the entire game the Commanders are playing from behind?
John, this is to me just mind blowing. How well Howell has played this year and how little McLaren has gotten targeted. I actually had a conversation with my cousin. We have him on a roster, and we were like discussing, like, do we sit McLaren this week? And I actually did. I signed him in 4 different leagues, and I picked the right week to sit him because he did absolutely nothing. I just cannot believe with how much they're throwing the ball, how little he has just been involved. And I hate to say this because I love Howell, but man, makes me miss Taylor Heineke because that guy made sure McLaren got the ball no matter what. He force fed him the football, but they've got to figure out a way. I think McLaren is real frustrated, and I could see where he is not on Washington's team next year. He finds somewhere else to go because he just looks like a dude that's really frustrated right now, and it just doesn't make sense how he is not getting looks.
Jorge, as a resident Washington Commanders fan, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I think Terry McLaurin said it all yesterday. He said, well, I did a lot of cardio on Sunday, so but I'll still be there. This is why I have his jersey, because he says, yeah, I did a lot of cardio, but you know what? I'm here to do whatever the team needs. If that means I got a block to help spring the running game or keep, my fellow wide receivers going, like I'll do whatever it takes. And that's why he's the captain of the team. As far as the certain rumors I've been hearing about, like, oh, they got to get rid of McLaurin. He's gone. He's not gone. He's not going anywhere. No, stop that. He's the captain of the team. He's not going anywhere.
Stop it. All right. Very good. Thanks for my 32 team hits, quick hits over there. All right, real fast. We're going to run through some trades. We're not evaluating the team this week. It's towards the end of the week, towards the end of the season. A lot of trades are going to happen next couple of weeks, so I'm going to leave rosters as is. But we're going to go through these Mighty McGlynn Home League recent trades. 12-team, 30-man deep rosters, no kickers, no defense, super flex, tight end premium 0.75, 5 touchdown, 2 interception point system, bonuses for 300-yard passing, 400-yard passing, 100-yard bonus, 6-point, 100-yard bonus for rushing, receiving, that kind of stuff. So, Brainiacs, we asked this one last week, but Jorge, I want to get your kind of take on this. Puka Nacua and Joe Burrow for a team that's winning, a team traded away Puka Nacua and Joe Burrow. They got Jamar Chase and Bryce Young. What do you think about that trade? Which side would you want?
I feel like that's horrible. I would rather have, especially for a 5 touchdown point, give me Joe Burrow and Puka Nacua versus Bryce Young, who we just talked about earlier, who we just have no idea what the hell's going on there, and they're not going to be in a good situation for years. I get it. Jamar Chase has that upside, but for the 5 touchdown, 2 interception thing, Burrow and Nacua, that for me, I'd rather have that.
Good, man. That's all right. Good. Both JT, James Cook for Keaton Mitchell in a 25-second. Would you rather have James Cook or Keaton Mitchell in a 25-second?
Mitchell in 25-second. For me, I'm just not a James Cook guy personally. It's not even Keaton Mitchell really. I want that second. I'd rather take a second, especially this upcoming season, because I think there's going to be a load of wide receivers and rookie drafts that are going to be in that second round. I want as many second-round picks this year as I can get.
That's a 25-second, but I mean, that's
okay. 25-second. I definitely want the 24-second personally. Excuse me. If I'm not playing Cook and I don't really need him, I probably make the trade. But I still think the Bills go and do something different at running back. I just don't trust Cook as a long-term answer there, personally.
Jorge, Cook or Keaton Mitchell in a late 25-second? What looks to be a late 25-second.
I would keep Cook because if we're making this decision right now, I would keep Cook because we have no idea what the running back situation is going to be for the Bills. They haven't invested anybody outside of James Cook. So the 25-second, that for me is too far away.
Okay. A.T. Perry, Khalil Shakir, and Zach Evans for Sam Darnold, Kenny Gainwell, and a 25-4th. Which side do you want? Jorge, what do you think?
I want the A.T. Perry, Khalil Shakir side.
Damn right you do.
More so for A.T. Perry and Zach Evans. We don't know. Is Kyron Williams the guy in Los Angeles? He's playing well now, but is he the guy or just a guy? So I'm kind of curious about that. And I have no interest in Sam Darnold. Gainwell is the third option on the team rushing. And again, the 25th, 25-4th. Again, that means nothing to me at this point.
JT, he said he has no interest in Sam Darnold. That makes both of us mad. But the hardest thing here was I traded away my own Kenny Gainwell to make this trade happen. So what do you think? Which side do you take, JT?
Yeah, I'm an A.T. Perry guy. I actually think that he's going to have some upside going forward. I like him going into next season. I'd probably take the Perry side personally. If you had, like, and you're desperate for a running back and you got Gainwell because you had to play him, I guess. But I'm taking the A.T. Perry side from the outside.
Yeah, okay. The Bavaro League. Waddle, a late 24 second, a 25 second for Minshew, Pittman, Flowers, and a 24 late third. Jalen Waddle, a 24 second, a 25 second for Minshew, Pittman, Flowers, and a 24 late third. Either one of you guys.
I'd take Minshew, Pittman, and Flowers in the 24 late third. To be honest with you, I I say, yeah, I believe that. Like, I believe in the talent of Flowers. Pittman hasn't been. He's very much like the deep throwing, deep receiving wide receiver. He's not like super efficient, but he's the number one there. And the 24 late third. You mentioned the wide receiver class being deep this year. Give me that. Yeah, give me that.
JT.
If I'm in need of a quarterback in a super flex, I'm taking the Minshew side because I love the Minshew Pittman stack. He is just force feeding Pittman balls. I mean, he's getting 10, 11, 12 targets a game lately. That's his go-to guy. If I'm in the race for the playoffs and I'm trying to make a move to win it, I'm taking the Minshew Pittman. Plus, I love Flowers. I think Flowers has got huge upside going forward. I like Waddle a ton. I like the seconds, but if I'm competing and I'm trying to make a run this year, I want Pittman, Minshew, and Flowers.
Yeah, this is both like middle range teams, so this is I get it. But there was a good trade across the board. Jalen Guyton for a 24 fourth.
Yeah, I would do it. I would take the 24 fourth. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Samaje Perine in a 24 late first for Rachaad White, 24 early fourth. Oh, that was it. So Samaje Perine and a late and a 24. So pretty much Rachaad White for a first and Samaje Perine for a early fourth. Which side do you want?
I want the first. I want the first round pick.
Yeah.
Rachaad White, he in recent weeks his yards per carry average has been going up, but for the longest time it's been sub 3. His only real asset was in catching 70-yard passes once a game, and then you take that away and he's only averaging 2.5 yards on 39 yards carrying. Like, no, give me the potential for upside for the late first.
Yeah, I was not a Rachaad White fan. He's, of course, I traded him away, he went nuts. But I'll take the first also. Although Wright's having a nice situation on Tampa Bay, I want to start from scratch with somebody else. Brandon Cooks for a 24 mid fourth.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. JT.
I was going to say I'm taking Cooks. If it's a fourth for Brandon Cooks, I'm taking Cooks for sure.
Yes. Yeah, especially if I'm getting contention, I'm taking Cooks this year.
Yeah, this is somebody trying to get rid of max points for on their team, and they really couldn't get much for Cooks because of his age, shit like that. He's producing, he's doing really good on the field. I'm not sure why a third wouldn't happen across the board. I spammed the league to try and get rid of Cooks to get my max points 4 down, and it's all I can get was mid fourth for him, unfortunately. I would have loved to keep the guy. I probably should have, but I'm trying to get as much lottery balls as I can in the first round in my draft lottery, so I had to do what I had to do. But all right, Lamar Jackson for Joe Burrow in a mid 24 first. So Jorge, we'll start with you because we asked this question last week. Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow in a mid 24 first. This is obviously somebody in winning contention that traded for Lamar Jackson right now. They got rid of Joe Burrow in a first.
Oh, I'd rather have Joe Burrow in the first just because of the first. The pick is what's selling me right here. So yeah, I would take Joe Burrow. The weapons he has. Lamar Jackson, look, they're both great quarterbacks. What really sets it apart is to give you the extra first round pick for me.
Yeah, absolutely. JT, Brevin Jordan or Charlie Kohler, Daniel Bellinger, and a 5th round pick.
Jordan for who now? Who was the package?
Brevin Jordan was the first part. The next one was Charlie Kohler, Daniel Bellinger, and a 25th year fifth. So a lot of garbage going on here.
I'm probably taking the package, but that's just because I like Bellinger. I like his upside. I know the passing game is not great in New York right now with the Giants, but I actually like Bellinger. I personally like him a little better than Brevin Jordan, so that's the only reason I'm taking that move. Though I think, probably right now Brevin Jordan has a little more value, but I like Bellinger for the future.
Jorge?
Give me Brevin Jordan. I like the high-powered passing offense in Houston. Give me another receiving weapon just in case Schultz goes down, or maybe they find a way to incorporate both of these tight ends going forward. Even so, tie me to the player who has the best quarterback situation going on in this case.
There you go. All right, kind of a big boy trade here. DK Metcalf, Ken Walker, and a 24 first and a late 24 first and late 24 second from what it looks like right now for Tyreek Hill and Austin Eckler.
I would not get rid of DK or Ken Walker in a first and a second for Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, how many more years is he going to play? One. Austin Eckler has looked like a shell of himself. There's probably a reason why now we're starting to understand why the Chargers didn't give him that long-term extension. Give me Metcalf and the upside of Walker, even if he's playing in a committee with Charbonnet.
I'm kind of scared that if Tyreek Hill gets his 2,000 yards this year, he's going to walk away from the game. And to be honest with you, what's the reason for playing? He's got enough money now. He's already been into social media stuff. If he breaks the record, I don't. What do you think?
He's got a Super Bowl ring. So, what is right. Left?
What is left is right. JT, what do you think about this trade?
Yeah, I love Tyreek Hill, but I agree. I think I want the younger upside guys, and Eckler is he's been rough. He's not the guy he's been in the past. I want Walker. I want DK. I want the young guys, the upside there.
Kind of a BS trade, but I can't believe I pulled it off. I got Andy Losovitz and an early 24 third for Tim Boyle and 2 late 24 fourths and probably a late 25 fifth. I really don't understand. Either one of you guys can chime in here, but I
don't. I want the side that isn't Tim Boyle. I want the other side.
Right, and you don't know if Yeshivas or if you don't know if it's going to be Trent Irwin who takes over when T. Higgins leaves, and I believe T. Higgins is not going to be a Bengal after this season. So, give me the pick 24th, third, and Yeshivas for upside.
That's right. Losivas. I don't know why I have a problem saying that.
It's tricky. I didn't know that's how it's pronounced first. I heard somebody say it. I'm like, writing that down. Good to know.
Yeah.
I
butchered it every time.
Yeah, the West Lawn All-Stars. Damian Pierce in early 24 fourth for a late 24 third.
God, he's just been playing so damn bad, right? It's just so inefficient. And the fact that Devin Singletary is taking away opportunities from you, I don't know what that says. And you figure with a high power passing offense that would help, again, keep boxes less stacked against the run. And Damian Pierce still can't get off the ground, literally. I may just say, you know what? That was a nice rookie campaign you had there. Give me the third.
I think Damian Pierce is nothing more than a roster clogger at this point in time, unfortunately. And I was a big Damian Pierce guy coming out of college. So, I was that guy. Him and Jerome Ford were not my favorites, obviously. But they were really guys I was targeting in the late second, early third round in most of my drafts. So, it is what it is. JT?
I'd probably take the third. I'm kind of mad at myself. I missed the sell window on Pierce with a couple teams. I had some people interested in him off season, and I kind of was hesitant to pull the trigger. And I'm mad at myself that I didn't sell him when I had a chance.
Somebody offered me Damian Pierce for Puka Nacua earlier, but preseason. I'm like, no, I'm keeping Damian Pierce now. That just hurts me. It hurts my soul that I didn't do that.
Early in the year, that's probably. Most people would have kept Pierce, but that's one of those ones you look back and you're like, I wish I would have known. It could have been a huge.
Yeah. Well, usually we do a team evaluation, but we already said before, this is one of those things where it's just there's going to be so much change in these leagues next couple weeks because as soon as we find out who made the playoffs, this week's big for pretty much at least a third of the league, if not a half of the league, as far as who makes the playoffs, who doesn't, for getting max points for stuff off your roster, all that kind of thing. So we'll see. But JT, where's everybody at? Tell everybody you can find you at again. What's going on?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, JT Orange. You can also check out my show, The Stew with JT Brew, on dynastyprosfootball.com. Check me out on there. Also, my IDP rankings are on DLF. So if you're a member of DLF, you can check out my IDP rankings there. And I write a weekly waiver wire column for Fantrax, IDP waiver wire. So if you're looking for guys to pick up week to week, that's a good spot to find me there. And also Debbie Show at dynastyprosfootball.com. Check it out. We talked about transfer portal guys last night. We're probably going to be talking about the transfer portal for the whole next month. So if you're into Debbie, into any of that stuff, C2C, CFF, check me out there. We always do a show on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Very good. Jorge, want to see us out?
Sure, yeah. You can find me on X at Jorge P. Edwards, or rather you follow at Fantasy and Frames. Head over to fantasyandframes.com for our articles and our rankings for offense and for IDP, as well as Dynasty and Dynasty IDP, sleepers, best ball, you name it, rookies, prospects, all that jazz, as well as follow us at Fantasy and Frames on all the major social media networks and on YouTube.
I just joined the Fantasy and Frames team, and I met them all at the expo. All super nice people. They're nicer in person than they are online, and it's hard to even say they're awesome online too. And I joined them. I don't do much for them, but when I put content out, literally 2 hours later, it's already on the internet, cleaned up with all the action graphics, and everybody turns stuff in. They turn stuff over. It's content that comes out right away. Great group of people. Fantasy and Frames. I couldn't be happier. Just kind of being in the same room with you guys, even though I'm not like a major producer or a content creator. I do my part now. Hopefully I'll be able to do more later, but just thanks for having me aboard, Jorge. You have no idea how much it means to me to be part of your team, and thanks a lot. And thanks for everybody for watching the Commissioner Evaluation Show. This is what I do for fun. This is my hobby. This is my baby here. So I'll be all over the internet. These guys are all over the place all the time with great IDP stuff, great I've Debbie, great Dynasty, great redraft, great everything. It looks all kind of social media stuff. Just follow Fantasy and Frames. Follow everything JT does. JT, the Stew and Brew with the Stew and Brew, all the good stuff on the internet. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. And follow me, John McGlynn 75, my YouTube channel. You can find this, and it'll be on all the major podcast networks also coming out this week. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.